Welcome to today's class. I will proceed from where we left last time on remuneration, and today I will deal with salary and wage administration, or generally salary administration. Under these, we have the objectives and the principles of salary administration. Now, when we say salary administration, we are simply telling ourselves, how do we implement the compensation scheme of an organization? And those who are bestowed with the responsibility of doing that, what parameters are they going to follow in implementing that scheme? Because if you don't administer, then whatever you've originally put into perspective, then it will not be able to be enjoyed by those who are coming into perspective. So when we come to this, then we ask ourselves, what are the objectives of this salary administration and the proper salary administration initiative? So they are subdivided into three. We have the organizational objectives in regard to salary administration. We have individual objectives in regard to the same. We have collective objectives in regard to the same. Under organizational objectives, number one, if it is fully implemented very well, then the organization will be able to have quantity and quality staff that it requires. Because the salary administration structure encompasses the members of staff. So when we say quantity, it is in regard to the number of staff. Quality, it is in terms of the value they are adding to the organization. So sometimes when we are doing that process, we are trying to look at that or achieve that objective. Number two, it is about retention of employees, because we know recruitment of employees every now and then, it is an expensive exercise, but we can cure that disease by instituting a proper salary administration policy so that people don't feel they are either poorly paid or maybe they are less compensated in the organization. Number three is just motivation, because when we compensate our employees for the services rendered well, then we want, on the flip side, we try to motivate them for the good performance, and they will be able to put in more effort. Number four, it is about equity and fairness, because compensation cannot be done from the face value. There are various initiatives that are put in place to make sure that people get what is due for them in regard to the quantity of services rendered, and also in regard to their day-to-day engagements within the organization. Number five, it is achieve flexibility, because organizations go through different changes, either in terms of structuring or in terms of other maybe initiatives. But when we are doing these organizational changes, then we should have a salary administration system that is able to survive and comply and be able to fit into these changes that occur every now and then. And lastly, a system that is cost effective, because you can only pay what you can pay. So the organization will use a proper salary administration structure to pay what they can pay and institute it in the best way. Under individual objectives, number one, fair compensation, because employees will always feel good when the value of their engagement has been reckoned and recognized. So that is going to ensure that from the employee's point of view, compensation systems should ensure that there is that fair compensation. Number two, it should be worth the individual's service or the individual's contribution into the organization, so that we don't find lazy people being favored vis-a-vis or maybe at the expense of fully committed, hardworking employees. Number three, it will deal or do away with favorism, because regardless of other things and other factors remaining constant, people will be paid what is theirs, and therefore we are not going to pay people because they are our friends or they are our relatives or maybe clansmen and other issues. And lastly, there the employees' morale, the way we saw under organization, it is also going to be boosted because then they feel they are getting value of their engagement. Under collective objectives, number one, it is understanding the cost of inflation, because some of these economical challenges or changes, they always pose a danger to the compensation schemes of an organization, and therefore we need to make sure that we are able to deal with it when it comes. And then matching the organization's compensation rates with the market rates, so that what others are paying should also be in harmony with what you are paying, because most of these individuals, they emanate from the society and they are bound to share ideas amongst themselves, so it is good for them. Then number three, the compensation should reflect the increase in the prosperity of the company, meaning when the company grows, also let the employees grow with the company in terms of compensation, because it will be very bad if the company is growing and the compensation aspects are either remaining stagnant or they are going lower and lower. It is going to create a huge gap in terms of harmonization. And lastly, it should be free from the management's discretion, because something that is documented and it is well defined, then we remove the issue of the management feeling they can pay you what they want at their disposal and also at their own time, which is going to be quite very, very different to that person. So the next item there is now on what we call the principles. So we've seen the objectives now, but we have the principles of salary administration. And these principles are mainly three. Kuna external equity, internal equity, and individual worth. Because when you are dealing with employees in a certain core ecosystem, they will always want to see what is the value of their engagement. So under the external equity, we are looking at the variables that are existing outside the organization. That is mainly under the labor market. So that what rates are existing in the labor market and what are you paying, so that the organization is at par with what others are doing within the society. And when they are fixing the wages, they are fixing the salary levels, it is able to attract and retain their employees, so that they are not feeling they need to go to other organizations that are going to pay them better than what you are doing. Because when the labor market is so demanding, then it means employees will have the free hand in choosing whom they can work with very, very easily. Then we have the internal equity, whereby the organizations, yes, it has various jobs, and some of them are relative in terms of performance. So when we give an example like a professor, a lecturer, and maybe a student, so you see these individuals are existing in different mechanisms. So to what extent are they going to be given their compensation? So we might be in the same organization, in the same department, or in the same section, but the issue is, what are we performing, and is it something that can be given a proper evaluation so that people get what they deserve? The last thing is the individual worth, which we've seen under individual objectives. Because sometimes people rate themselves with what they are being paid. Because if you are paid peanuts, the way some say, then it means your value in the organization seems to be wanting. But those maybe who are paid higher salaries, sometimes we tend, on the flip side, to believe their value in the organization is far-fetched, and therefore it is quite resounding in the same initiative. So we want to attain the proper salary administration system But we want to make sure that we are able to agree with those principles of external equity, internal equity, and individual worth. And to sum up, it means that whatever you will be doing in that initiative, it is going to be quite positive and very clear in terms of that engagement, which ideally gives the proper position of the individuals. Because if those objectives are going to be well instituted or maybe well put in place, then recruitment of the right persons is going to be easy. Controlling of the payrolls within the organization is also going to be an easy task. Satisfaction, whereby we are going to reduce incidences of turnover, grievances, and frictions, is also going to be minimal. And the other issue is motivating people to perform better will be easier. And lastly, there will be public good image. So for today, I think that is enough. God willing, we shall proceed from there.